is on Rogerian argument and how to reach a reluctant audience. Take a look at some of these pictures here. On the left, we have President Obama giving the State of the Union in front of a Congress that was dominated by Republicans. On the right, we have a picture of Donald Trump shaking hands with Nancy Pelosi, which is his Democratic rival. And in the center, we have a cheetah, I think it's a cheetah, and a dog, two unlikely friends. In all three cases, we have a reluctant audience, people that are either political enemies or natural enemies, but they seem to be getting along. That is the goal of a Rogerian argument. To accomplish this, one of the key tools is to use a delayed thesis when working with a reluctant audience. Also, empathetic listening means being able to walk in somebody else's shoes. This concept was promoted by Carl Rogers, a psychologist working with people on their communication skills. And he believed that in all cases, you can find common ground. That's when two opposing parties can agree on a common idea, such as some universal values: safety, fairness, love, survival. When using a Rogerian structure, whether it's an oral argument or a written essay, there are 6 elements that you should include. Begin with giving a brief, objective statement about the issue. The key word there being objective. Don't take sides. Next, present the opposing point of view, the side that you don't necessarily agree with. And when presenting their point of view, use impartial language. Show your understanding, trying to walk in the other person's shoes. Then, that's when you present your point of view. And do it without insulting the opposition. Remember, you're trying to get people that disagree with you on your side. The next step, which is essential to a Rogerian argument, is the common ground. What can they agree on? At this point, you would present your thesis statement. In a 5-page essay, this would probably occur around the 2nd or 3rd page. Throughout most of your academic writing, you've always been told to put the thesis statement at the end of the introduction paragraph. This is one of the few exceptions where you do not put your thesis statement at the end of the introduction paragraph. You put it after the common ground. You've delayed your thesis to a point where you have the opposition at least willing to listen to you. After your thesis statement, you would present your evidence in support of your claim. So let's compare and contrast the traditional essay structure to the Rogerian. Once again, in traditional essay structure, you'd have your thesis at the end of the introduction paragraph, followed by your reasons, your supporting evidence. Then you'd have your opposition with a rebuttal and your conclusion. In the Rogerian structure, you still introduce your ideas. You'd present your opposition, then the common ground where everybody agrees, then your thesis, all of your reasons, and your conclusion paragraph. So notice where the thesis statement goes. Let's take a look at an example from the book Just Mercy. Let's pretend we're focusing on the topic of death penalty versus a life sentence in prison for a murderer. Start with your introduction. You'd have your opposition's point of view, and then you'd have your common ground. What common ground would both sides agree on? One would be safety. Everybody wants to live in a safe community, and giving murderers a life sentence without parole would keep the streets safe without needing the death penalty. Another area of common ground would be fairness. Nobody likes favoritism or arbitrary discrimination. Those are all frowned upon. So the common ground would be everyone deserves a trial free of prejudice. So retrials are necessary when Black defendants have bias of white juries or inadequate representation. So in both cases, there is common ground that all sides agree on. So in review, in an essay written in Rogerian approach to argument, the thesis or claim will be one that reconciles opposing positions, at least as far as that's possible, with the sorts of emotionally charged subjects that call for non-confrontational approach in the first place. So the essentials of a Rogerian argument: present the opponent's view accurately and objectively. Present your views fairly and objectively. Explain what common ground exists between the two positions. And make sure your thesis statement presents a compromise between the two positions. These are the overall key ideas for a Rogerian argument. Thank you for joining me today in Flipped Classroom.